Thank you very much. And I suppose I have spoken on this issue in the Dáil on a few occasions since last March, and since last March, 12 months actually. I started getting calls on the VAT refund last March, and it was the first time I had ever got calls on it. And I would say I've got numerous calls in the past 12 months on the VAT refund. So I have to take issue with the thing that the interpretation of the refund didn't change, because from what I can see, talking to my constituents, items that were previously reclaimable or refundable, I suppose is the correct word, were being refused. Now, I accept as this opening statement is giving a lot of clarification, and I really appreciate that. I think the meeting with the farming organisations is very worthwhile, and hopefully we can get full clarity on what is refundable and what isn't refundable. But I'll just start with slurry bags. Slurry bags was the first issue that was brought to my attention last March, 12 months, and I see on this opening statement that slurry bags are still excluded. I find that very hard to comprehend, because it's a lagoon that probably small to medium sized farmers use mostly, because it's usually holds roughly, I suppose, 80 to 100,000 gallons of slurry. And like, if that is used on a farm, I think the prospect of being able to move it to another location would be very remote and extremely difficult. And I just can't understand how that can be classified as a movable object. As I said, it was the first issue. It was the first item that was brought to my attention as regards the VAT refund. So the second one that was brought to my attention was calf feeders, and salespeople who had, I suppose, promoted their sale of their product at the ploughing match and had promoted on the basis that the VAT was refundable on it. Suddenly, VAT the reclaims that there was refusals as regards automatic calf feeders for VAT. And most definitely previously calf feeders were refundable, and there was a grant there for under TAMS, and farmers were doing their sums on it, and the fact that the VAT was reclaimable and a grant under TAMS definitely promoted use of automatic calf feeders. Now, I see here where it's stated that if cubicle mats are bolted to the floor, they're refundable. But like, where a calf feeder is installed, it's most definitely bolted, and it becomes a fixture in a building, and it's most definitely. And I don't see any mention in the opening statement about automatic calf feeders. And when I finish, you just might address that particular item. The other thing which concerns me here, well, a few other things, is meal bins 10 tonnes in size. Now, you'd have a lot of farmers on a smaller scale who wouldn't be buying a bin of 10 tonnes. Like, when you put in a bin, it's most definitely very much secured, and has to be for safety reasons. And a bin, whether it is 5, 6 tonnes or 10 tonnes, a bin which is put into a place is put into a concrete. You have to put a concrete base for it, which is very of a certain strength, and the manufacturer of the bin will insist on seeing what the strength of the concrete is that you're putting the bin into, and it's then bolted to that concrete. So I can't understand why we have a size, for a meal bin, and it's the same. Whether it's a building is 5 tonne or 6 tonne or 10 tonne or 12 or 14 tonne, it has to be made very, very secure. And just when you say here, these include heat and health monitoring systems, and that's where the slurry bags is referred to here. Now, I can understand the health monitoring systems are usually collars on cows' necks, or boluses in their stomach, or what's mostly used as regards health monitoring systems. I'd like just clarification on what you mean by heat. Is that water heaters, or what exactly you're referring to there? And I suppose milk tanks, and definitely again I was presented with refusals on milk tanks. And again, there's clarification here of the building. I think has to be, if there has to be modifications of the building for the installation of the milk tank, that it will qualify for the refund. And I think, you know, that clarification is welcome. And I think new bills, I think I see here where you have, if there's a new bills, that the equipment will qualify as well. So there is a lot of clarification in your opening statement. But most definitely, and it has increased in volume as the year has gone on, the amount of representations I have got on the VAT refund is very, very significant. And previously, like I could count on one hand the number of representations I got on it. So for whatever reason, the amount of refusals increased dramatically in the back end of the year and into the springtime. And now, as I said, I welcome the statement and the clarification. And I suppose, you know, you go into about farmers registering for VAT, and there is, I think, if my understanding is correct, there's about 86% of farmers aren't registered, about 14% are registered. And mostly, from my understanding, tillage farmers and farmers that might do some level of contracting they're the ones that predominantly register for VAT. And I suppose, you know, farmers, we do get a VAT refund on the product we sell. Unregistered farmers get a refund which changes year by year in the budget, and that's based on. There's a formula there, I know, a very complicated formula for calculating that, and it can vary up and down. And I think it has dropped in the last two budgets, and I think it peaked at 5.2%, and it is down to 4.8 or 5% now. So that is, I suppose, a separate matter, and that is that's a formula that has stood the test of time. So I suppose they're my initial observations on it, and I very much welcome you coming in here today. And you know, I see you said 96% were approved for payment. If that's the case, I must have got the other 4% crossing my desk, because I definitely got a lot of them in the last couple of months, and I'm sure other public representatives here will supplement what I'm saying in that regard. So they're my initial questions and remarks on it. I suppose a lot of it was commentary, but I think I posed a few questions to you, and before we go to the rest of the committee, you might address them, please, Mr. Regan.
Yeah, happy to do so. I just want to make sure I've captured all the questions. It's on the slurry bags, the calf feeders, the bins, the heat and health monitoring system, the milk tank. I think that, okay. If I missed one, I'm happy to be reminded of that. So the slurry bags, and we know they come in different sizes. I know you're talking about the larger ones. So our approach is we have to look at what the refund order says, and the wording it says is a construction or extension, alteration or reconstruction of a farm building or structure. So we would have to consider that type of large slurry bag. I think I know the one you're talking about as a structure or a building, and we don't believe that it's a building or a structure. That's our interpretation. That's the view we've taken. Now we understand there is the ground can be prepared, the cement, maybe some piping, but from our interpretation of the order, we don't believe it would fall within the requirements. We also understand that they can be moved as well, that they can, I know there's different opinions on that, but we know that they can, and marketed as such, that they can be moved and reused. So we can only apply the legislation as it's written.
I beg to differ on the ability to move a slurry bag now, to be honest. Once it's used once and you have 80 to 100,000 gallons of slurry in it, I don't know how you could move it to another location.
I think they're emptied, but as our understanding is that they can be reused, but essentially we have to look at the wording we have in the legislation, and it's about it being whether we could consider it to be a structure. And we just don't see that the slurry bags of any size really, but particularly the larger ones, obviously, we don't see them as a structure for the purposes of the refund order. The calf feeders, we know that the industry have raised that with us as well. first of all, I think you mentioned TAMS. It's not linked. The order's not linked to TAMS, so it's a separate matter. We don't base our decisions on what TAMS allows or not. For our purposes, we don't think the calf feeders is bolted on. I think onto a. There's different sizes as well. So with these type of things, it's whether it's a fixture. The key thing is whether we would consider a fixture, because we have to be mindful of the wording of the order, which talks about the construction of a farm building or structure. So fixtures can come within the order, but they have to be permanently installed, and that's the test we have. And if they can be removed easily, and we believe that they can be removed easily, that they're not a fixture. If they can't be removed easily, and they cause damage to the building or the structure, or damage to themselves when they're removed, then generally they would be allowable. So from our view of these items, we wouldn't classify as fixtures in that case. So we know the sector have asked for us to look at this, so it's something we're considering as part of the updated guidance, because we know there's a view out there that they should be allowable, and as part of our guidance, as part of our process in updating the guidance, we'll clarify whether we've changed our position on that or not. The bins. These are the 10-ton size. So these are interesting because we know they can come in different sizes. When I mentioned the 10-ton size bin, I'm talking about the silos. There's the large ones and they're attached to the ground. So that we would consider them to be structures. So that's why they're let in. The other bins, the smaller bins, they're movable. They're not. We wouldn't consider them to be structures. So that's why we wouldn't let them in. But the sector have raised it with us. I think the Irish Creamery Milk Suppliers Association have raised it with us, so we're looking at it to see whether that size is appropriate. So as part of this process of reviewing and updating our guidance, we are looking at whether that size requirement is too high. But for this type of item, it would have to be considered a structure. The smaller ones then would have to be considered a fixture, but we don't think they are at the moment. The heat and health monitoring system, my understanding is that these they come in combination, that there's a collar around the cows.
Oh, you mean heat as regards an animal being in heat rather than heating water, so they were.
Yes.
Okay, oh, sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah.
That's there's collars that's put on animals, and I could accept that they can be taken on and off. I accept that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Then
there's boluses used for that as well, which is put into the cow's stomach, which are most definitely a permanent fixture. Which do the same job. So, like if you talk about a thing being a fixture, the bolus is most definitely a fixture.
Just on the milk tanks, if I could move on to that one. These ones we allow where there's a new build of a milk parlour as part of that. So that's something, but outside of it, if it's a replacement, we don't allow it. So we've taken the view that they're not fixtures. But I think we've taken quite a flexible approach when we consider a milk parlour being built requires a milk tank. So that's the reasoning behind there. But the industry have asked us to look at that. So we are considering that again as part of our review of the updated guidance.